Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Saturday. And today our thoughts go back to an Old Testament character named David. Young David, the shepherd boy, comes down to the middle of the battle and finds that Goliath is taunting his army and his people. And so David stands up against him. We know the story of David and Goliath. We know that young David, even though he's a shepherd boy, he goes against him with a sling and a stone, and he defeats the giant. Sends the Philistines running for their lives. So what lessons do people gather from this Bible story? Some people would gather, well, the biggest combatant doesn't always win. Sometimes the underdog will win against insurmountable odds, or maybe you shouldn't trash talk if you can't back it up. Some ridiculous ideas they get from the story. That's not what David is preaching here. David actually says to them in 1 Samuel chapter 17 and verse 46, he said, "This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you, and all the earth will know that there is a God in Israel." Wow. That's what we need to learn from this. Of course, the story goes on that David does defeat Goliath, kills him, cuts off his head, sends his army running. So who was David talking to here when he said these words? The whole earth will know. Well, certainly he was talking to God's enemies. He was warning the Philistines, it doesn't matter what giant you send out here, God is able to overcome them. He was also talking to his own people. That army of Israelites who are quaking in their boots behind him, David is saying, you will know today there is a God in Israel. You know what? I think he was speaking to us. I think he was letting us know that in May of 2020, in the midst of a pandemic and a COVID-19 crisis, there is still a God. He is still on the throne, and he is able to deliver us. I don't know what kind of things that we pick up whenever we read this story. A lot of people will think it's the young kid against the old guy. It's the sling against the sword. No. It is the fact that there's a God in Israel, and he said, I want us to know that today. One of the things he wants to teach us is that God is bigger than any giant that you might face. Maybe one of the lessons we need to learn is that America needs to be careful not to make God's people their enemies. But of course, one of the things we also understand is the fact that he is simply saying, if you put your faith and your trust in God today, you can win any battle, you can overcome any enemy, you can certainly be a testimony to others of the fact that there is still a God in Israel. There is a God. He is alive and well. He is living within me. I hope he's living within you today, because I want you to have the same victories that David was able to have in his life because he trusted in God.